So what if I told you that the simple act of just opening your bedroom window to let in a nice, cool breeze is actually cutting decades off your life?
I mean, it sounds completely counterintuitive, right?
Yeah.
But that's exactly what we're getting into today.
Yeah, welcome to today's deep dive. We are going to completely shatter your illusion of a safe home. It's a fascinating and honestly pretty unsettling collection of technical documents and patent materials we've got today.
Very unsettling.
Yeah.
Specifically, we're looking at U.S. patent US 8268058B2. It was filed by an inventor named Fuchi Wu.
Right, and this patent details a totally revolutionary air purification system. It's called HeavenAir Plus, and its core engine has this ominous but incredibly cool name, the ToxBox.
The ToxBox, yeah.
Yeah.
And our mission today goes way beyond, clearing out some seasonal pollen or pet hair. The documents present this really compelling case that humanity is fighting a relentless, invisible war.
And we are losing.
Yeah.
Badly.
Exactly. The inventor's fundamental argument is that modern humans are being continuously, slowly poisoned by our environments. And we've basically normalized the biological fallout.
Which leads to the jaw-dropping claim that totally hooked me when I read through your notes. The source material suggests that if we can stop this invisible poisoning, if we can achieve what they call super heaven air quality, we aren't just going to feel a little more energetic.
No, it's much bigger than that.
Right. The patent claims we might actually unlock a human lifespan of up to 180 years.
It is a staggering proposition. I mean, 180 years to figure out if there is actual science behind that claim or if it's just wild speculation. We're going to spend this deep dive unpacking the complex physics of this new labyrinth technology.
We really need to get into the physics.
Yeah, we have to examine exactly why the inventor believes our standard trusted air filters are failing us so completely and how this ToxBox operates on an entirely different set of physical laws.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because before we tackle the 180-year lifespan or, the mechanics of the ToxBox, we have to establish the threat itself.
The invisible war.
Right, because the sources paint a dire picture of our everyday environment. They describe a two-front war against what they classify as air toxins. So let's start with the first front. The indoors.
This is the part that feels almost like a betrayal.
Totally, because we view our homes as our ultimate safe spaces. You lock the front door, you shut out the world, and you just think you're safe. But these documents point out that the modern indoor environment is actually a massive, continuous source of chemical off-gassing.
Think about your own morning routine today. You probably woke up on a memory foam mattress, stepped onto a synthetic carpet, sprayed some aerosol deodorant, maybe sat on a sofa treated with stain retardants. Well, every single one of those manufactured items is undergoing a chemical phase change, like right now. They're constantly releasing volatile organic compounds, or VOCs.
They're going from a solid state right into the air you breathe. And the sheer volume of sources listed in the text for this is wild. It's not just the obvious things, like fresh paint or strong bleach. It's the formaldehyde slowly leaching out of your wooden coffee table.
Right, the furniture.
Yeah, and the benzene in your plastics, the silicones, even the toxic artificial fragrance molecules released by your shampoo and your perfume.
And then you have to add the biological side to that chemical mix. You've got peeling human skin flakes, pet dander, mold spores, quietly multiplying inside your central air conditioning.
Oh, gross.
Yeah, becomes a literal chemical soup inside your house. And the sources emphasize a really crucial point here. These indoor toxins aren't designed to make you drop to the floor immediately.
Right, it's not carbon monoxide.
Exactly. It is a slow burn. Every breath you take indoors pushes you day by day closer to what the text calls a toxin saturation point.
Which, naturally makes you think, okay, the air inside is stale and toxic. I will just open a window and let the house breathe. But that brings us to the second front of this war, which is the outdoor environment.
And that's flooded with its own invisible threats.
Yeah. You've got brake dust from cars, diesel tailpipe emissions, factory smoke, and just a constant swirl of microplastics. And there was this one specific detail in the text that actually gave me a chill.
The pollen one.
Yes. It pointed out that when you step outside and smell that pleasant, sweet scent of pollen in the air, there is a very high probability that you are also inhaling the agricultural pesticide that is chemically bonded to that pollen grain.
The pesticide-pollen connection is just a perfect illustration of how stealthy these threats are. But the most dangerous players in this outdoor category, at least according to the patent, are the ultrafine particles.
The nano stuff.
Right. We were talking about PM 2.5 and even smaller, PM 0.1. These are nanoparticles measured in tiny fractions of a micron.
So I have to pause here and ask the underlying question. Are we just being paranoid? Or is this really a continuous, life-threatening situation? Because based on this text, opening a window for quote-unquote fresh air in a moderate city sounds less like getting a breath of fresh air and more like drinking from a muddy puddle just because you happen to be thirsty.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah.
And the medical severity outlined in the text completely validates that exact comparison.
So why is it so bad?
Well, to understand why PM 0.1 is so deadly, we have to look at the mechanics of human biology. When you breathe in normal dust, your body has built-in physical filters.
Like nasal hair and stuff.
Yeah, the mucus and cilia in your nose and throat trap the big stuff. But PM 0.1 nanoparticles are infinitesimally small. They easily bypass those initial defenses and travel deep into your lungs, all the way down to the alveoli.
Right, and those are the tiny little air sacs at the very end of our lung branches, right? Like the actual trade window where our body swaps carbon dioxide for fresh oxygen.
That's the spot. The alveoli membrane has to be incredibly thin so oxygen can actually pass into your bloodstream. Right. But because PM1 particles are even smaller than the microscopic gaps in that biological trade window.
Oh, wow, so they slip right through along with the oxygen.
Exactly. Once they are in your bloodstream, there is virtually nothing stopping them. They bypass the blood-brain barrier, they'll travel straight to your organs, your brain tissue, and into the cell nuclei themselves.
They literally enter the nucleus of your cells, the place where your DNA is stored.
Right. The text explicitly states that these nanoparticles are capable of changing cell destiny.
Changing cell destiny, that is terrifying.
We're talking about fundamental biological disruption and mutation at the cellular level. So when you open that window to let a breeze in, you aren't refreshing your home. You are inviting a 24/7 infiltration of cell-altering toxins directly into your living space.
Wow. Okay, so if the threat is this pervasive and it's happening on such a microscopic scale, the obvious question you might be asking yourself right now is, hey, I already have a high-end air purifier sitting in the corner of my bedroom. I bought one with a true HEPA filter, so I'm protected.
Yeah, the sources deliver some incredibly bad news on that front. The patent is actually brutal in its critique of current HEPA technology.
Brutal is the right word.
The documents argue that for these specific deadly nanotoxins, your standard store-bought air purifier is functionally useless.
They call it the HEPA illusion. So let's break down the mechanics of why standard filters miss the mark so completely. HEPA high-efficiency particulate air is essentially just a physical mesh.
It's a net.
A very fine net, but still a net.
Yeah, but it is primarily rated and tested for particles that are 0.3 microns and larger.
And we just established that the real killers, the particles crossing into your brain and altering your cell destiny, are PM 0.1 and smaller.
So these deadly nanotoxins are less than a third the size of what the HEPA net is guaranteed to catch. They essentially fly right through the gaps in the weave.
And on top of that, standard air purifiers are designed to boast about their CADR rating, their clean air delivery rate. So they rely on pulling air through the machine as aggressively as possible to cycle the entire room's volume, like multiple times an hour.
Fast airflow.
Right. But because the airflow is moving at such a high velocity, the filter simply doesn't have the dwell time needed to physically snag anything that microscopic. The nanoparticles are just moving way too fast to get caught in the fibers.
Manufacturers know this, actually, which is why many add a static charge to the HEPA filter fibers. It's supposed to help grab particles as they fly by.
Like a magnet.
Sort of, yeah. But the patent points out a glaring flaw with that. That static charge dissipates rapidly as the filter gathers larger dust and moisture from the air. Within a matter of weeks, that magnetic assist is completely gone.
So you're left with a high-speed fan blowing air through a physical net that is fundamentally too wide for the most dangerous toxins. I mean, it sounds like we've been trying to catch mosquitoes with a chain-link fence and feeling safe just because we occasionally catch a few leaves.
This raises an important question. If physical nets are completely obsolete against nanoparticles, how do you stop them? We have to throw out the concept of traditional filtering entirely.
Right, because a physical barrier cannot stop them.
Exactly. We have to trap and destroy them using a totally different mechanism.
Which brings us to the core innovation of the HeavenAir Plus patent.
Because the solution isn't a better net, it's a labyrinth.
A maze.
Yeah, let's walk through the exact mechanics of the Air 80 maze purifier and its core engine, the ToxBox. This is where the physics shift entirely. When dirty, toxin-filled air enters this machine, step one is ionization. It blasts all the incoming particles, so the dust, smoke, and even the tiny suspended liquid aerosols, with a heavy negative electrical charge. It is essentially tagging every single microscopic invader with a negative magnetic signature. And this initial blast also serves to neutralize airborne pathogens, and it actually begins decomposing chemical toxins right at the entrance.
But the true mechanical marvel happens in the next stage.
Oh, absolutely.
The labyrinth effect. The text refers to this as MFI, or multiple forced impaction. The air doesn't just pass through a straight tunnel or, a flat screen. It is forced into a dense maze containing over 60 sharp turns and tiny, precision-engineered openings.
Just imagine air whipping through this intricate maze at high speed. When the airstream hits a sudden, sharp 90-degree corner, the physical laws of inertia take over.
Things crash.
Right. The larger particles, the dust, the pet bander, the heavy pollen grains, they simply can't make that tight corner. They carry too much mass and inertia, so they crash straight into the wall of the maze.
But what about the tiny nanoparticles, the PM 0.1? I mean, they have almost zero mass. Inertia isn't going to throw them into the wall. They will just effortlessly ride the air current around the corner.
And that is where the negative magnetic tag we gave them in step one activates.
Ah, right.
The walls of this labyrinth are highly positively charged. So as these negatively charged nanoparticles attempt to navigate these tight blind corners, they're violently pulled against the walls by sheer electrostatic attraction.
The text describes the result as microscopic electroplating. The toxins don't just bump into the wall and fall down, they are permanently magnetically bonded to the metal plates. I was trying to picture this, and instead of a physical net, it's like a high-speed pinball machine. But every single bumper is a supermagnet that instantly traps the pinball.
That's exactly it. But the machine takes it one step further. It doesn't just trap them, it destroys them.
Right, the destruction part.
Once these toxic VOCs and gases are bonded to the positively charged plates, the ToxBox uses something called electrochemical oxidation to trigger a molecular-level decomposition reaction.
This was the part that blew my mind. It does this without a spark, just pure electrical field energy.
Yeah, by generating an intense localized electrical field, the machine essentially rips the molecular bonds apart. It takes a toxic organic compound like formaldehyde, fractures its molecular chain, and instantly reorganizes the carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen atoms into completely harmless carbon dioxide and water vapor.
That is wild.
It is a continuously self-cleaning system. And because it relies on the physical laws of inertial impaction and electrostatic attraction, the efficiency never degrades. Gravity and magnetism don't wear out like a HEPA mesh does.
That makes perfect sense in theory, but I have a practical question. Even with the self-cleaning oxidation for the gases, this machine is trapping literally every speck of physical dust, heavy metal, and microplastic in the air. Wouldn't a maze with tiny precision openings just clog up immediately?
The inventors solved that with a concept the patent calls progressive saturation.
It's like sponge, right? Like if you pour water on one end of a dry sponge, that front edge absorbs everything until it's completely full. And only then does the water naturally flow to the next dry section.
That is a perfect analogy. The ToxBox is basically a labyrinthine sponge for toxins. The entire maze doesn't fill up all at once. The first section of the labyrinth handles the vast majority of the physical trapping.
Okay, so the front takes the hit.
Right. As that front section eventually gets saturated with debris, the incoming particles simply bounce further into the maze, and the next section progressively takes over the primary workload. The overall efficiency of the machine never drops. It just hands the burden further down the 60-turn maze, which vastly extends the lifespan of the unit before it needs any maintenance.
Which brings up a very strict operational rule laid out in the text. The inventor insists that this system must run 24 hours a day. You can't just flip it on when you get home from work or, when you notice the air feels stuffy.
Well, if you recall our discussion about off-gassing, the danger is permanently inside the house. Your walls, your ceilings, your synthetic carpets, they are constantly aging and releasing trace gases.
Right, it never stops.
If you turn the machine off, the chemical soup immediately begins to concentrate again.
The inventor is fundamentally rejecting the concept of spot cleaning your air. I mean, you wouldn't just occasionally filter the water in a fish tank and expect the fish to thrive. You have to manage a continuous indoor ecosystem.
Exactly.
And part of that ecosystem management involves a feature they call the New Wind Little Heaven units. The system isn't just scrubbing the recycled air already inside your living room. It is actively pulling fresh air from outside, purifying it completely through the labyrinth, and then pumping it indoors.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the mechanical brilliance of doing that is that it creates a slight positive pressure inside your house.
Right, because you are constantly pumping air in, the air pressure inside becomes slightly higher than the air pressure outside. This gently, continuously forces the stale, off-gassed air out through the tiny microscopic gaps around your windows, doors, and floorboards,
So the toxic air is constantly being pushed out.
while perfectly pristine air is being pumped in.
And that pristine air brings us to the ultimate standard this system is designed to achieve, what they call Air 8.0.
The 8 zeros. Let me list them. Dust-free, germ-free, toxin-free, smoke-free, odor-free, heavy metal-free, microplastic-free, and aerosol-free. The sources classify this state as super heaven air quality.
Which brings us to the philosophical core of these documents and that monumental claim we teased at the very beginning of this deep dive. What happens to human biology when a body lives inside a perfectly clean, super heaven ecosystem?
Here's where it gets really interesting. Okay, wait. A 180-year lifespan. I have to push it back here. That sounds like absolute science fiction. Or worse, snake oil designed to sell a product.
It sounds crazy, I know.
Is there actual biological precedent in this patent for that number, or is the inventor just doing some back-of-the-napkin math to grab headlines?
It is an incredibly bold extrapolation, and you are right to be skeptical of the literal number. The epilogue of these documents dives deep into biological philosophy rather than peer-reviewed clinical trials, but the underlying premise he presents is deeply thought-provoking.
How so?
The inventor asserts that humans aren't naturally programmed to start deteriorating rapidly in our 60s and die by 80. We are, in his words, deeply and chronically poisoned.
Oh, and the text uses a really striking analogy about an ant to explain this. An ant has a natural biological lifespan of about 5 days. But if you take a can of bug spray and spray that ant, it dies immediately.
Right.
That wasn't old age. That wasn't a natural deterioration of its body. That was a life cut violently short by an overwhelming influx of toxins.
The inventor applies that exact same logic to human beings. The 8 air poisons, so the PM 0.1, the formaldehyde, the microplastics, they are our bug spray.
Wow. Our bug spray.
He theorizes that our immune systems are spending an incalculable amount of cellular energy fighting off this constant 247 barrage of nanoparticles. Our bodies are in a perpetual state of inflammation and repair just to keep us functioning in a normal living room.
So he claims that by removing these biological shackles, by living in a positive pressure space completely free of these invisible cellular disruptors, modern humans wouldn't be miraculously reset to perfect health, but our natural biological limits would finally be unlocked.
He is basically asking us to reframe how we view human health, to treat aging and the chronic illnesses associated with it, not as inevitable natural decay, but as a symptom of chronic environmental poisoning.
That's a huge shift.
It is. Whether the math of 180 years perfectly holds up is debatable, sure, but the idea that we are wearing out our bodies decades before we actually need to simply by breathing modern air, that is medically profound.
It reframes everything. So what does this all mean? Let's recap the journey we've just been on. We started with the terrifying realization that our own safe spaces, our homes, are silently off-gassing and filling our lungs with volatile compounds.
Yeah, that chemical soup.
Then we looked at the mechanics of why standard HEPA filters are basically just wide-open gates for the most dangerous cell-altering nanoparticles, mostly because of higher velocity and physical mesh limits.
Then we explored the engineering behind the ToxBox, abandoning the concept of a net entirely in favor of a high-speed, electrostatically charged labyrinth.
Right.
It uses inertial impaction to physically smash larger particles and magnetic attraction to permanently bond nanotoxins to its walls before literally vaporizing the organic compounds into harmless water and carbon dioxide.
And finally, we arrived at this wild, world-changing proposition that by achieving this 8.0 air quality and stopping the constant immune system drain of environmental poisoning, we might unlock a human lifespan pushing 2 centuries. It's a massive paradigm shift.
It truly is. And I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over as you go about your day. If pure air is indeed the ultimate medicine, and our daily invisible environment is the primary thing cutting our natural life short, how much of what we accept as normal human aging is actually just the biological cost of modern industrial convenience?
That is a heavy question to sit with. I mean, are we literally trading a century of our potential lives for the convenience of stain-resistant sofas, synthetic carpets, and internal combustion engines? Yeah.
What if your body is biologically capable of so much more, simply by changing the invisible air you breathe?
It certainly makes you look at the dust motes floating in a sunbeam a little differently, doesn't it?
It really does. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive.
Yeah.
Keep questioning the invisible forces in your everyday world. We'll catch you next time.